2 days after, again, the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Niels Melzer, published a letter sent to the U.S. government urging her release from federal prison. Whistleblower Chelsea Manning, who exposed incredibly awful war crimes committed by the United States in Iraq and in Syria, like major in the middle, all throughout the Middle East, all these problems that we seem to be heading right in the direction of, again, exposing all that stuff. Like, now that that stuff is out, Chelsea Manning put in prison, locked away, and UN Special Rapporteur on Torture urging her release from federal prison. My long-standing objection to the moral practice of throwing people in jail without charge or trial for the sole purpose of forcing them to testify before a secret government-run investigative panel remains strong, said Manning. I think that's probably fair enough. Manning was imprisoned on March 8th, 2019 for refusing to take part in a grand jury investigation on WikiLeaks and the group's founder, Julian Assange, and she's not going to be backing down anytime soon, folks. Yeah, so as we head into the new year, all I'm going to say is keep someone who is as strong, as brave, and as powerful as Chelsea Manning in her thoughts, because in your thoughts, because even if you don't know, like, she has done so much to help expose the crimes of the United States overseas in this country. So it's a major benefit. I think it's something that she's done. The work she's done just cannot be overstated. So, yeah, free Chelsea, free Julian Assange. So that is something that is a no-brainer, and especially Chelsea, who's having it incredibly rough. Julian Assange, by the way, not doing well either. Keep them all in your thoughts as we head into a new year. I do want to get this op-ed here by Medea Benjamin and Nicholas Davies of Code Pink, talking about this Iran thing. Yeah, so it's a new year, and the U.S. has found a new enemy, an Iraqi militia called Kataib Hezbollah. How tragically predictable was that? So who or what is Kataib Hezbollah? Why are U.S. forces attacking it, and where will this lead? Kataib Hezbollah is one of the popular mobilization units, or PMUs, that were recruited to fight the Islamic State after Iraqi forces, armed forces collapsed again in Mosul, Iraq's second largest city, fell to ISIS in June 2014. The first PMUs were formed by 5 Shiite militias. By the way, Iraq and Iran, both Shia countries, that all received support from Iran, plus Muqtada al-Sadr's Iraqi Nationalist Peace Company, the reincarnation of his anti-occupation Mahdi army militia, which had been previously disarmed in 2008 under agreement with the Iraqi government. So Kataib Hezbollah was one of those 5 original Shiite militias and existed long before the fighting against ISIS. It was a small Shiite group founded before the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. It was part of the Iraqi resistance throughout the U.S. occupation. In 2011, reportedly had 1,000 fighters who were paid around $300 to $500 per month, probably mainly funded by Iran. It fought fiercely until the U.S. occupation forces were withdrawn in December 2011 and claimed responsibility for a rocket attack that killed 5 U.S. soldiers in Baghdad in June 2011. You may not like that they're fighting Americans, but I think the only people that are to blame for this are the Pentagon, like the Defense Department, like the people putting these troops in these situations to be killed by people who are fighting off an invasion of their country. Like, their country is being invaded here. You have to understand that. And they just didn't do anything. Like, these people, they're not responsible. They're not responsible for Saddam Hussein. They just want these foreign American troops who are trying to take over their way of life. They just don't want them around anymore. It's just that simple. In the fight against ISIS, the PMUs proliferated quickly. Most political parties in Iraq responded to a fatwa by Grand Ayatollah al-Sistani to reform these units by forming their own. At the beginning of the war with ISIS, the PMUs comprised about 60 brigades with hundreds of thousands of Shia fighters, including 40,000 Sunni Iraqis. In the context of the war against the Islamic State, the U.S. and Iran have both provided a great deal of military support to the PMU and other Iraqi forces. So that's pretty much who they are. This is a very, very long op-ed that I do want to read a little more. It's on Common Dreams in the website, which I think is probably going to be the new Splinter for me, but in the context of the war against Islamic State, the U.S. and Iran have provided a great deal of military support to the PMU and other Iraqi forces. The Iraqi Kurdish Peshmerga have also received support from Iran. Secretary of State John Kerry met with the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Zarif in New York in September 2014 to discuss the crisis, and U.S. Ambassador Stuart Jones in December 2014 said, "Let's face it, Iran is an important neighbor to Iraq. There has to be cooperation between Iraq and Iran. Iranians are talking to the Iraqi security forces, and we're talking to Iraqi security forces. We're relying on them to do the deconfliction. U.S. officials and corporate media are falsely painting Kataib, Hezbollah, and the PMU as an independent, renegade Iranian-backed militia in Iraq, but they're an official part of Iraq security forces." That's an important thing to realize here. As a statement from the Iraqi Prime Minister's office made clear, the U.S. strikes were an American attack on the Iraqi armed forces, and they are not just any Iraqi military forces that have been borne the brunt for some of the fiercest fighting in the Islamic State. So that's something that I think they should be kind of recognized here. Like they were in major in fighting ISIS, this group. So that's important, I think, for some sort of context. So yeah, that's I think an important group. Fighting this empire. They fought against American invasions, they fought against the addition of troops, and I think this is definitely something that we're going to have to find out a little bit more about in the future. So, yeah, with that said, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back tomorrow with a new Uncultured. This has been Newsflash 358.